And then there were two. It's the final of our debate series, and how excited are we to have powerhouses Combretum Trust and Concordia College go head-to-head in our final of our Straight Talk debate series. Welcome to our Straight Talk debate. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Rivaldo Kavanga, and I'll be your moderator for today's dynamic, exciting, and superb final. But let's get into technical procedures. We have amended our procedures to allow our final to bring the best out of our debaters here today. So the technical procedures are as followed for today. We'll have our first debater from Team Proposition to give their opening speech, which will be 10 minutes long for the opening speech. And points of information will open at the first minute, which will be indicated by a single clap, and will close at the sixth minute, indicated by a double clap. So the opposing team will have 5 minutes to ask their questions in an appropriate manner. No continuous disturbances allowed. The same procedures will follow for the opposing team's opening speech. After both teams are done with the opening speeches, the second speaker from the proposing team will be given 5 minutes to present their closing speech. During this time, POIs are closed. The same procedure will then be followed by the second speaker of the opposing team. We do know that we have our Public Choice Awards, and leading the race currently is Aurore. The competition is still open during the final, meaning you can still comment the name of your favorite debater and who you think is the best during this finals, and after the finals we'll determine who the final winner is. So stay tuned as we begin our debate. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Now the moment we have all been waiting for. Today for Team Proposition we have Aurora and Arusha representing Combretum Trust. For Team Opposition we have Colin and Nyanyesa from Concordia College. Namibia's Vision 2030 was launched by His Excellency the President Sam Nujoma in June 2004. The goal of Vision 2030 is to improve the quality of life of the Namibian people to a level of counterparts in the developed world by 2030. We also know that our current President, His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob, champions Vision 2030. The motion for today reads that this House believes that Vision 2030 cannot be achieved. The floor is open for you to drop your comments on what you think, whether or not we will achieve Vision 2030. Team Proposition, the floor is yours for your opening speech.
Get your dance on. We can have as much fun as you can possibly get. With your pants on that cover, baby. Let's get this game on. Let me see it. Let's get this game on. Get it started.
Everyone. Today's motion is this House believes that Vision 2030 cannot be achieved. First and foremost, what is Vision 2030? Vision 2020 was a goal established by our former President Sam Nujoma on June 2004. The goal is to by 2030, we should have an industrialized nation enjoying high per capita income, a high educated nation, abundant prosperity, and interpersonal harmony, peace, and political stability. The aims of this motion is to reduce unemployment from 35% to 5%. And the other one is manufacturing and service sector to make up 80% of the GDP, and to provide appropriate education, affordable and excellent health care. The last one is to ensure atmosphere of peace, security and hope for better life for all, and create access to abundant hygiene and food. Okay, into my argument, we'll base our argument on 5 or 6 elements: economics, social, political, education, and health. Okay, so on the economics, we have multidimensional poverty. Namibia is a country that suffers from multidimensional poverty, which is a various depreciation experienced by poor people in their daily lives, such as poor health, lack of education, inequality, inadequate living standards, disempowerment, poor quality of work, threat to violence, and living in areas that are bad, among others, or harmful against others. Okay, so basically, almost 50% of Namibia suffers from this type of poverty. So this should be one of the things that are tackled. So without solving multidimensional poverty, we cannot establish or we cannot achieve Vision 2030. So under economics, we have the second point, which is debt to GDP ratio. The opposition team might come here and tell you that GDP has increased. But let me tell you, debt has increased. It has even tripled for that matter. So the general government debt is estimated to rise to 70% of the GDP by the end of 2021. And that tells you that the debt outweighs the GDP. Therefore, we haven't done anything as a nation. And we haven't done anything as a nation. Therefore, we cannot economically achieve Vision 2030. There's lack of capacity to develop manufacturing in the country since we're always importing things. We're importing finished goods and exporting raw materials instead of the importation of finished goods to be less than the exportation of raw materials. It's the other way around. And that tells you that we cannot make the aim of Vision 2030 is to achieve 80%. 80% of the GDP should come from manufacturing country, and that cannot be done if we are always importing or if the imports are more than the exports. Okay, moving on to the political one. I will not go into detail based on this, but we can all agree that we cannot hold our leaders accountable. There is no accountability in this nation. Therefore, we will keep having an even distribution of income, and we'll keep having multidimensional poverty because there is no one to hold accountability, and there is no the anti-corruption mission cannot do its job because we cannot hold our leaders accountable, and money will continue to be lost through corruption because we cannot do that. So moving on to my third point, which is the social. We're going straight into unemployment. So unemployment. The aim is to reduce unemployment to 5% from 35%, but currently the unemployment rate from 2004 to 2020 has only reduced by 1.74%. 1.74. Basically, it was 22.09, and now it's just 22.35, and that's not enough. For 16 years, what have we done to reduce this? And I do not see how that will result to 5% in 9 years. I don't see how we'll go from 1.74% in 16 years to reducing it to 5%, because we've been here for almost 16 years, and you couldn't reduce it to even half. You couldn't do that, but you're expecting to do that in 9 years. No, I don't think we'll do that. And bear in mind, 50% of the youth is unemployed, therefore increasing the rate of crimes. And we all experienced that during 2020, the GBV, gender-based violence. There were protests. The shut it down action was there. Everything was going south because things were not coming together, and I do not see how we are going to solve unemployment, because unemployment is not destined to decrease by miracles, because for the 16 years we haven't done anything. So in 9 years I don't think we'll do anything. So Vision 2020 will not be accomplished. Inequality. Let's start by housing. People migrate from local places to Windhoek for better standard of living. I am quoting it because here in Windhoek, it's not better. If you're building your shack along the roads, just like last month, we saw people complaining about buildings. They've been waiting in line for so long that the lands are not coming. I've been here, I've been waiting. I'm building shacks because, there's nothing for me. And the municipality is not doing anything about this. I do not see how they will do that in 9 years, because, if for example, I am not able to get a house, and then you think in 9 years I'll get a house. For 16 years I haven't been able to get a house. In 9 years I'll get a house. Municipality is not trying. It's not trying to solve this thing. They're not trying. There's no signs that they're trying to improve the housing in Windhoek. Moving on to the inequality. The unemployed, the women and the children of this nation are neglected because 50% of the youth are unemployed and 20% of the women are unemployed. And the income inequality, this just shows that income inequality is very high. Not to mention the increasing dropout of girls from school due to lack of sanitary towels. And that leads to my third point, health, sanitation. Katutura, people don't have soap in Katutura, and people and the hospitals that we have now were built in apartheid. Therefore, government has not increased the health facility, and the population continues to grow. So the population, no, denied. It's 6 minutes. You can't ask POIs after 6 minutes. The population is increasing, but the doctors are not increasing. Our students are going back to medical school because they couldn't graduate from medical school, and that simply shows us that the doctors in this nation are not enough for the people in this nation. And moving on, the rural areas, people do not have people travel to come here to Windhoek to get hospital or to get treated, but the hospitals here are not even enough to treat other people. People practice defecation. Let me tell you, the same open defecation system that led to the outbreak of hepatitis E in Windhoek in 2017, people are still practicing that same thing. Therefore, it means that you people or the government has not improved the standard of living for our people. And lastly, the pandemic. The Vision 2030 did not cater for the pandemic. Therefore, it overthrows or outthrows us. It takes out of our seats because we did not plan for this. Since we did not plan for this, it came as a surprise. So there's no budget for pandemics. Unemployment rate increased because for example, Air Namibia is shut down. We all know that. Meat Corporation is firing people, retrenching people because there's no money. Shops closed. Therefore, it shows you that unemployment really increased. And the education system, you might tell me that they have improved education. My sister, passing rates have decreased. People are failing in those improved education systems. People are failing. And I think the pandemic was a wake-up call for the government to review, replan Vision 2030, because I do not see how we are going to go from zero to hero in 9 years when we couldn't do it in 16 years. And for those reasons, I believe I'm really proud to oppose. And one thing before I end is that we as the proposition team came here with facts, statistics, and proof. We are showing you, we are not only telling you, but we are showing you what is going on in our nation. So with that, we are very glad to propose. Thank you.
That was the opening speech from Team Proposition, and one thing I can say that highlights it is that we only have 9 years to achieve our goals for Vision 2030. Right now we'll have the opening speaker. He give his or her opening speech from Team Opposition. Team Opposition, the floor is yours.
panel, we need to remember what today's debate about. Today's debate is not about whether in the next 9 years the government is going to be able to perfect the current status quo of the Namibian people by doing everything at the same time in order to correct everything and the mistakes that have been done at the same time. But it is whether we can improve the conditions of the quality of living of the Namibian people if time is given. The rest, my rebuttals will be included into my counter-characterization. What is a vision? A vision is an ideal, a dream, a vision that we are working towards achieving, which needs time in order to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, we as side opposition believe that Vision 2030 is still attainable within the current status quo because we are on the path that was set for us and have achieved things that are close to the Vision 2030, ladies and gentlemen. It is not set in stone and it is not perfect. We do understand that esteemed opposition, ladies and gentlemen, but we can also not ignore the things that it has done for the Namibian people and the Namibian economy and country and socially as a whole, ladies and gentlemen. In the words of our previous of His Excellency Dr. Sam Nujoma, ladies and gentlemen, it is a perception of the future which reveals and points to something new beyond what is already available and accessible, ladies and gentlemen. Visioning for a nation means creating multiple alternative development strategies and implementation approaches for reaching the goal of future development, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, in the current status quo, we see that the government is trying their best in order to succeed the Vision 2030, ladies and gentlemen. But we have more educated people compared to post-independent times, ladies and gentlemen, with us with only having 9% of the population uneducated above basic level in 2018. And also gave us the introduction to free basic education, ladies and gentlemen. Financially, the only population that live in the current poverty state is 28.7%, ladies and gentlemen. In the healthcare access in Namibia is relatively good compared to other countries like Zimbabwe and Ethiopia, ladies and gentlemen, with 76% of the population living within a 10-kilometer radius of a healthcare facility, ladies and gentlemen. The vision is to get as close as possible to the initial goal, meaning that it's adaptable and changeable, ladies and gentlemen. It was never stagnant as Dr. Sam Nujoma said when he first introduced the idea to the cabinet in 1998, ladies and gentlemen. With every adjustment, obviously more time has to be added because these things were never foreseen, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody was even knew what COVID was 30 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. It is something new that we need to give time to the government in order for them to adjust, ladies and gentlemen. The same way they had to adjust the country's healthcare access when the outbreak of malaria happened in 1993 and the malaria eradication efforts reduced the annual cases by 97%, ladies and gentlemen. Further on, the population of developed countries are still being conditioned to accept certain things like equality, ladies and gentlemen. Equality can never be achieved 100% due to the different cultural norms and social norms of that country or society, ladies and gentlemen. In our African society, we do understand that that a man is the one that's supposed to work and a woman is the one that's supposed to stay at home and cook and take care of the children. So you literally have to remove people from the little bit of culture that they have left in order for you to have equality in a country, ladies and gentlemen. But we see that our government is trying the best they can in order for that to happen. With us having 50-50 representation in parliament, man and woman, ladies and gentlemen. With us having a prime minister as a woman, ladies and gentlemen. And we can see slowly but surely they are improving the lives of the Namibian people, ladies and gentlemen. We look at the poverty right now. The poverty went from 75% to 28% post-independence time, and that was when Namibia and Africans as a whole did not know how to govern their own countries properly because they were never allowed to, ladies and gentlemen. If we as side opposition can prove to you that Vision 2030 has improved the lives of the Namibian people, even if just by 1%, we deserve to win this debate, ladies and gentlemen. We also look at the HPP, ladies and gentlemen. We need to keep in mind that even in the words of our Excellency himself, HPP is not a replacement for Vision 2030, ladies and gentlemen. It is an ideal, ladies and gentlemen, that will fast track, that will help the realization of Vision 2030, ladies and gentlemen. We look at the food bank that was established by the HPP, helping many of the hungry citizens of Namibia, ladies and gentlemen. With that its own, we can already see, even though it's just a little percentage of people, we are still helping at the best we can at the moment. Little by little, we just need to be given time, because you cannot do everything at once in a household. If you plan to clean the whole house at once, you will never be able to achieve it to perfection. That's why we need to focus in the current status quo. That's why the government eradicated other plans in order for them to focus with the current COVID status, in order for them to help their country, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to go to my first argument within today's debate, which is adjustability, ladies and gentlemen. We do not face the same problems we did 30 years ago, and that is just the sad truth, ladies and gentlemen. We have COVID now. We have this disease that came so unexpectedly that the government has to take time in order for them to become accustomed to it, ladies and gentlemen. It is a responsive change, ladies and gentlemen. The same way the government had to make changes when the cases of malaria broke, ladies and gentlemen. We just need to give them time. That is all we are asking. We do understand that there are flaws, but we also understand that Vision 2030 has given us a path to follow, and a path that we are trying our best in order to reach our ideal world, ladies and gentlemen. And now we look at my second argument, which is stages of implementation, ladies and gentlemen. One thing at a time, and that is all we need to do as a nation in order to succeed. We need to focus on what's important right now, which is curing our people for them not to die, before we can think about putting more people doing agricultural jobs, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot go focusing on the country's economy when your own people are dying, ladies and gentlemen. We also look at the labor empowerment and we look at the imposition of accountability, ladies and gentlemen, by the NDPs, ladies and gentlemen. The first NDP helped with population development and labor employment and human resources. As I said before, when this plan was recently established, poverty rate went from 75% to 28%, ladies and gentlemen. We also look at from 2007 to 2012, ladies and gentlemen, the goals were bettered with each NDP. It was used as an integrated result based on management approach with central focus on development, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we are here to tell you today. We're here to tell you is, yes, we do understand there are flaws. We do understand that there are things that are still not perfectly done. But all we tell you right now is that they need time. And we gave you proof enough with statistics that even though we might not be getting this ideal vision by 2030, if you're given time, we will be able to achieve it as a nation, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we deserve to win today's debate, ladies and gentlemen.
We have now concluded our opening speeches from both Team Proposition and Team Opposition, and I must say energetic, passionate and robust. We now move on to our closing speeches, and firstly we'll give the Proposition team 5 minutes to come and present their closing speech. Team Proposition, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Vanessa said, a vision is just a dream, ladies and gentlemen. And she clearly agreed with us that the aims of Vision 2013 cannot be achieved, therefore making it seem as though they need more time and they need more time to implement their things and they're not perfect and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make it clear. If you add more time, that is a new plan. You cannot add more time, ladies and gentlemen. For 12 years, you're telling me you cannot do a simple thing as the aims that my first speaker spoke about, ladies and gentlemen. For 12 years, how many more years do you need? Do you need 13 more years in order for you to achieve the aims you're talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, and then she said no one can foresee the pandemic and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe if Vision 2030 had planned for the pandemic and disease outbreak, they wouldn't have to cater for the problems that we're facing today, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, they talked about equality can never be achieved and so on. So they agree with us that Vision 2030 is just a dream and it will never happen, and it was just set up so it can manipulate people into thinking that the government is doing something when the government is actually doing nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, they talk about how there is infrastructure for hospitals and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make it clear, as my first speaker said, ladies and gentlemen, there is no infrastructure for people to go and receive the basic health care that they need, ladies and gentlemen, because the hospitals that are currently available in Namibia were built during the post-independence time, proving that the government has not built any infrastructure, and the hospitals that are there, ladies and gentlemen, are being used for screening for vaccines and so on. And the fact that people have to travel from rural areas into the urban area, which is Windhoek, to receive basic health care goes to show that the government has done nothing, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, and then she talks about education and how it's free, and so, ladies and gentlemen, what is the use of putting money into education if 3% of 3% of Namibians' youth is only passing? What about the 97% that are failing, ladies and gentlemen? This money is going into waste. Let me start with my points. What have we said in today's debate, ladies and gentlemen? We have given you 3 aspects. Yes. Oh, sorry. We've given you 3 aspects: economic, social, health, and politics, ladies and gentlemen. Economic, stating that Vision 20 will lead to more debt and causing inflation within Namibia, ladies and gentlemen. That then leads to lower productivity and lowers the standard of living and increases unemployment within Namibia's system, ladies and gentlemen. If unemployment is increased, there will be no infrastructure built and so on. Social, stating that Vision 2030 has increased unemployment by 36.6%, ladies and gentlemen. The youth are unemployed. No infrastructure has been built. The only thing we see is them giving us lies and telling us they'll do something, but they're not doing it. Health, stating that if Vision 2030 catered for disease outbreak and pandemics, it would have they would have achieved their goals, but currently their goals are unrealistic due to the fact that they did not cater for disease outbreak and pandemics. Why is this important in today's debate? Ladies and gentlemen, no matter how much makeup you put on a baboon stays ugly. They will come up here and sugarcoat Vision 2030 and say it's a good thing, it's done good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, statistics do not lie, and we clearly see they have not done anything. Rather, they have told us that they are going to do something, giving us beautiful speeches, but not shown anything to us, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, they might come up here and say, what makes us think that it won't change in the next 9 years to come, ladies and gentlemen? Statistics show that this is an ongoing trend where the government comes up and puts aims that are unrealistic and like a dream, like Yanessa has said, that are not achievable and will not be achieved due to the ineffectiveness of our leaders, as my first speaker said, where we cannot hold our leaders accountable for the corruption they commit and so on, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, We must learn to let go of the past. Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing that came up in Yanesa's speech was post-independent infrastructure and post-independent things, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about when Vision 2030 was implemented, ladies and gentlemen. Has there been change in the years that they talked about, ladies and gentlemen? I see no change.
I really would have hoped to hear more of what they had to say. I would have loved this debate to actually extend, but unfortunately we have to stick within the rules of the debate. Up next, we'll have the opposition team give their closing speech. So the floor is open for the opposing team to come give their closing speech. Wants you to have within today's debate. They want a government with no clear objective, on how to improve the quality of life of people, right? This is what Team Proposition wants, right? It wants the government to run like headless chickens, right? This is exactly what they want, right? So firstly, the first speaker from Team Proposition gives us one argument with a lot of points within today's debate. He gives us how they want a multi-dimensional equality, right? Within this, they talk about poverty within today's debate. But in fact, poverty has decreased within the Namibian society, right? From 69.3% to a whole whopping 29.9%, right? There has been improvement in the quality of people of life within Namibia in the first place, right? She further then talks about inequality, right? But then panel, when you look at the parliament, there has been a 50-50 percentage of women in parliament, right? Secondly, our prime minister within herself is a woman in the first place, right? So at the end of the day, there is equality within the Namibian country, right? So she further then talks about how the leaders don't have accountability, right? And how the ACC is not doing its job. This is why Vision 2030 had a provision for that. This is why they created the ombudsman, right? To hold leaders accountable, panel. So she further then talks about how the employment has reduced to only reduced to 1.74%, right? That reduction within itself, panel, we find it a huge reduction in the first place, right? Any way in which the improvement of people's lives has been improved, we find it a huge thing, right? So they further then give us inequality, right? Again, right? But then, as I said before, there's been a 50-50 representation of women within the parliament, right? Then she further then gives us lead urgencies within today's debate. I don't know how is that relevant to today's motion, but anyways. But then, panel, the government has made provisions for everything, right? Within the Vision 2030, right? Therefore, they have created resettlement projects for those that don't have land, right? So, she further then gives us sanitary towels and so forth. Panel, that is a ministry's job, right? Ministry of
education, health and culture, and so forth, right? Or Ministry of Health and Social Services, right? This is their job, not Vision 2030, right? So she further then gives us how hospitals are not enough and so forth. But in comparison to other countries like Zimbabwe and Angola that got its independence way before us, we are doing much more better, panel. So she then said how Vision 2030 does not cater to the pandemic, right? But then, panel, like my first speaker said, right, Vision 2030 is totally adjustable, right? When HIV happened, right, in NDP 1, right, HIV was not in there. NDP 2, NDP 2 catered for HIV, right? So Vision 2030 is totally adjustable to the current situations that are actually happening in the country, right? So at the end of the day, the Vision 2030 is also gonna cater to the pandemic, right? So she further then gives us as to how the passing grades have actually decreased, panel. But then at the end of the day, people are educated, right? This is what Vision 2030 said it will do, educate the people, right? So at the end of the day, people are educated, right? So moving on to the second speaker from Team Proposition, right? She had little to say, but I have to engage for engagement purposes, right? She further then said as to how vision is just a dream, panel. But then, if a vision is just if Vision 2030 is just a dream, at least it's taking us somewhere. At least it's giving us a targeted approach on how to handle situations that are happening within the country of Namibia, right? So, it further then gives us as to how the Vision 2030 does not actually cater to the pandemic, right? But then, panel, neither of any other countries actually had a plan for this pandemic, right? Reason why it was unexpected, right? It was totally unexpected. You cannot expect something that is unexpected like a pandemic, right? So, she further then gives us as to equality cannot, as to how my first speaker said equality cannot be achieved, which is 100% true, right? We should look at Western countries, or much less even USA. Equality is not even achieved there, right? So what do you think that a country that was colonized is gonna achieve equality within 2 or 4 years, right? It's totally absurd within today's debate. So, panel, let me tell you the main objectives and why we won within today's debate. It was the proposition of burden within today's debate to prove to us why, firstly, the Vision 2030 is not obtainable, even though of all their successes, right? They failed to do that. The only thing they've given us within today's debate is the disadvantages of Vision 2030, right?
That was the closing speech from the opposing team, and I must say throughout this entire debate, I am impressed by the learners and how they managed to go and do research on Vision 2030, see where the country is heading to, see what problems actually lie within Vision 2030, see how we can still achieve these goals of Vision 2030. And for that, dear viewers, I totally congratulate them. Regardless of who's going to win today's debate, I am proud of all the debates that came up here today. We do know that it was a tournament and they came a really long way. We do know that they also faced likes such as debate giants, Hage Geenkop, Windhoek Gymnasium, and other debate giant schools that dear viewers. But up next, after the ad, we'll have our adjudicator present the winners. I am anxious for this, and I also want to know who actually won the debate. But let's wait for our adjudicator, so stay tuned after the ad.
We lose ourselves in the spirit of things. We lose our sight when we put our trust in things of this material world, of things that fade away. Yet we keep coming back, 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 keep coming back.
Tell me, baby, do you like the way I move? Come on, get your dance on. We can have as much fun as you can possibly get. We can dance on that. Come on, baby, let's get this game on. Let me see it. Let's get this game on. Oh yeah, get it started.
If you're feeling how I'm feeling and you know I won't stop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. If I got it and you want it and you'll never let it drop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. I will ride for you, baby, even die for you. When I'm loving you, but my heart don't stop.
I was the chair judge on the motion that reads that this House believes that Vision 2030 cannot be achieved. To give an overview of the debate from both sides of the debate, I'll start off with proposition and then move into opposition side. On proposition, they were defending the motion that the Vision 2030 cannot be achieved, and they had an overview of what Vision 2030 was all about, moving from things like what we wanted to industrialize by the time it's 2030, how the economy would look like in terms of peace and like employment, and just like things like the kind of sectors we ought to improve as a nation. They then highlight how we have not really achieved any of those particular things, particularly looking at it on an economical level, social level, and a political level. Those are the key issues that we pick out from side proposition. On side opposition, it was more of a thing that the Vision 2030 has faced its challenges, but it's adjustable challenges in terms of the introduction of things like the Harambee Prosperity Plan, things like the NDP goals, but they've also seen strides over the years. The equality brackets of Parliament, where there's now more women in Parliament, the ideas of accessing healthcare from what it looked like back in the 90s to what it looks like now, the access of free education from what it looked like over 20 years ago to what it looks like now. So they prove that there's been steady progress and a way of moving forward, right? So that was like a bulk of what both sides had talked about. But in terms of what the outcome of the debate was, we look at it based on what the motion then also at the end of the day required, right? And with that given, the finals for the straight talk debate goes to side proposition Combretum Trust. Congratulations to the team. All right, thanks.
Tell me, baby, do you like the way I move? Come on, get your dance on. We can have as much fun as you can possibly have. With your pants on that cover, baby. Let's get this game on. Let me see it. Let's get this game on. Oh yeah, get it started.
And so congratulations are in order for Combretum Trust. Congratulations on winning this debate. It is fully deserved. But I'd also like to congratulate the opposing team for making to the finals, for giving it their best, and for coming to our straight talk debate series. It was quite an intense debate, quite a vigorous debate, and we could see from the adjudicator that was really a close debate. But nothing to take away from Combretum Trust. They brought their best, they did their best, and they won the debate. But do stay tuned for season 2. We will have a season 2 of our debate series, and we'll have much more competitions that will be involving learners. Thank you all so much for staying tuned during the entire debate. We wholeheartedly appreciate it. But until next time, see you again.